Coffee Break Spanish, Program 80.
Buenos dias, how you do? We got something for you. A bit of Spanish you can try. It's not hard, now don't you cry. Más cerveza, por favor. Un cafecito, I want more. No haggis here, I hope that's fine. Just a bit of Espanol online. Espanol, you're in control. Just be resilient. One in Spanish is dead brilliant. Just be prepared. Mark and Kara will take you there. Now you're on a roll. Coffee Break Español.
Hola a todos.
Buenos días. ¿Qué tal estás, Mark?
Pues la verdad es que estoy triste.
Sí, yo también.
As I'm sure our listeners will know, this is in fact the last episode in the series of Coffee Break Spanish. Yep. Little did we know when we started this off 2 years ago that it would turn into a worldwide phenomenon with well over 25 million downloads.
But it's not all bad news.
Absolutely not. We feel that the time has come to finish off this show, but we know that lots of you have just recently started learning, so there will be plenty of material for you to work on as we start off back at the beginning of the series once more with newly remastered programs.
And for those of you who have been with us since the beginning, well, the first thing that we'd like to say is a huge thank you.
Indeed, thanks for sticking with us over the past 2 years, and we hope that you've learnt lots of Spanish.
And that you now feel really ready to use the language.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, Cara. Do you feel as if you've learned something through your Coffee Break Spanish experience?
Well, I guess I wouldn't have decided to study Spanish at university if I'd not been involved.
The thing is, learning a language never ends. Even though I've been speaking Spanish for many years and I've lived and worked in Spain, I still feel that I'm learning all the time.
And how can our current listeners continue learning?
Well, the Radiolingua Network is of course delighted to be introducing Showtime Spanish. But we'll tell you more about that at the end of this program. Because even in our last program, we're still going to be doing some learning.
I guess it's time to begin?
Sí, Cara, una vez más, ¿estás lista?
Sí, Mark. Estoy lista para aprender español con Coffee Break Spanish.
Coffee Break Español.
So, as you know, over the past few weeks, we've been following the story of Andrew and María José. Andrew es inglés, es estudiante inglés que está en España para aprender español. Y ha conocido a María José. Why did I say ha conocido a María José, Cara?
Because you're talking about a person?
Exactly, it's the personal a. Ha conocido a María José. He got to know María José. And over the past few weeks, they've been getting to know each other a little better. Now, you may remember that last week, la semana pasada, María José estaba en Madrid. She was in Madrid para una conferencia. And Andrew's friend, el amigo de Andrew, acababa de llegar. He had just arrived, porque él está también en España para aprender español. And Michael and Andrew were going to the ayuntamiento so that Michael could sign up for his course. So as we join María José and Andrew this week, they're back in another tapas bar, and this time they're sampling the albóndigas, the meatballs that María José had spoken about before her conference. So a couple of questions. What was the bad point about María José's conference? And how do Andrew and María José intend to keep in contact with each other after Andrew returns to England? Have a listen to the conversation. Tenías razón, estas albóndigas están riquísimas.
Sí, te lo dije. Cuando estaba en Madrid, fuimos a un restaurante donde comimos unas tapas muy buenas, pero estas son mejores.
¿Y qué tal la conferencia?
Bien, pero no conocía a mucha gente. Dime, ¿ya has hecho las maletas?
No, todavía no. La verdad es que no quiero volver a Inglaterra. Me he divertido tanto aquí.
Y tengo que decir que tu español se ha mejorado un montón.
Por lo menos ahora entiendo lo que me dices, pues la mayoría del tiempo. Quiero darte las gracias por eso. Y por mucho más.
¿A qué hora sale el avión mañana?
A las 11. ¿Me vas a acompañar al aeropuerto?
Claro que sí.
¿Y cuándo vas a venir a verme en Inglaterra?
En cuanto pueda, pero tengo que ahorrar un poco de dinero. De todos modos, podemos hablar por Skype y por Messenger.
Me voy a comprar un webcam.
¿Pondrás las fotos de tu estancia aquí en tu Facebook?
Claro.
Y dime, ¿cómo vas a seguir aprendiendo español? No quiero que pierdas todo cuando vuelvas a Inglaterra.
Sí, lo sé. Me costará mucho. Por eso tú tienes que venir a verme.
Vendré en cuanto pueda. Mientras tanto, yo te escribo un mail cada día y me tienes que responder en castellano.
Sí, y Michael me ha dicho que su profesor de aquí le ha recomendado un podcast muy bueno para la gente que aprende el español.
¡Qué bien! Oye, ¿ya pedimos la cuenta?
Sí. So, Andrew and Maria José's time together is coming to an end, but hopefully they'll be able to mantener el contacto. What would that mean?
Stay in contact?
Yeah, literally, to maintain the contact. Podemos mantener el contacto.
Podemos mantener el contacto.
Exacto. And did you work out how they would mantener el contacto?
Sí, by Skype and MSN Messenger.
Exacto, pero en español se dice Skype.
Skype.
Por Skype
Por Skype
y por Messenger.
y por Messenger.
Muy bien. Okay, so that was one of the questions. The second question was, what was the bad point about Maria José's conference?
She said that she didn't know very many people.
Exacto. Can you remember how she said that in Spanish?
No conoce mucha gente.
Yeah, you've got that almost right. No conoce. Conoce would be the present tense. She's talking about the past, and in this situation, because she's describing how the conference was, she would be using the imperfect tense. So she would say, no
Conocía.
no conocía a mucha gente. And again, because the mucha gente is a person or people, there's a personal a in there. No conocía a mucha gente.
No conocía a mucha gente.
Exactly. Now, we're going to go through the whole thing this week in the bonus podcast. We'll be talking about all the language contained in this conversation. And there's quite a lot in there. But I'm going to bring out a couple of phrases. First of all, some translations. And then we're going to look again at some subjunctive situations because there were a few in that conversation again. First of all, can you remember how Andrew asked Maria José, what was the conference like?
¿Qué tal la conferencia?
Exactly. He used ¿qué tal? ¿Qué tal? It can be used in many, many situations. It's one of the first words we learnt in the course, in fact, because we used it to mean, how are you? ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué tal estás? ¿Qué tal? But ¿qué tal? Can also be used, combined with a noun in this case, ¿qué tal la conferencia? To suggest how was the conference, or how is something. You don't need to worry about a verb and a tense in that situation. So you can use ¿qué tal la comida? What's the food like? What's the meal like? ¿Qué tal el tiempo? What's the weather like? But ¿qué tal el tiempo, if you're talking in the past, would mean what was the weather like? So if you've just come back from your holidays and someone says to you, ¿qué tal el tiempo? Bueno, ¿qué tal el tiempo? Hacía mucho viento, hacía mucho calor, o lo que sea. Okay, so ¿qué tal? Many ways of using ¿qué tal? Another phrase that I wanted to pick out was when Maria José asked Andrew, have you packed your cases? Have you packed yet for going back to England? Cara, can you remember how that was phrased?
¿Has hecho las maletas?
Yeah, that's right. Has hecho, from which verb?
Hacer.
Hacer, to do, hacer in Latin America. Has hecho, have you done, las maletas are the suitcases. So literally, have you done the suitcases? She actually said, ya has hecho las maletas. And the ya there would mean, how would we translate that?
Already?
Yeah, have you already done the suitcases? So, have you already packed? Ya has hecho las maletas?
¿Ya has hecho las maletas?
Muy bien. And Andrew didn't seem to have done his suitcases. He didn't seem to have packed yet, porque no quería irse. He didn't want to go away. No quiere volver a Inglaterra. Sí. Lo ha pasado muy bien en España. He's had a very good time in Spain. He told Maria José that she had to come and see him. How would you say in Spanish, you have to come to see me?
Tienes que venir a ver
Yep, tienes que venir a ver...
me.
Me, exacto. Tienes que venir a verme. Okay, you have to come to see me. And the me goes on to the end of the infinitive of ver. Tienes que venir a verme.
Tienes que venir a verme.
So you have to come to see me. Tienes que venir a verme.
Tienes que venir a verme.
So that's tienes que, you have to. How would you say, I have to come and see you?
Tengo que venir a verte.
Muy bien. Tengo que venir a verte. Tengo que venir a verte.
Tengo que venir a verte.
Perfecto. Now, I said that we were going to look at some subjunctives in this lesson, and there were a couple of examples. Andrew also said, ¿Cuándo vas a venir a verme? When are you going to come to see me? ¿Cuándo vas a venir a verme?
¿Cuándo vas a venir a verme?
And Maria José's answer to this was, En cuanto pueda.
En cuanto pueda.
Now, pueda comes from which verb?
Poder.
Poder, yeah. You'll recognize it as the similar to puedo, puedo meaning I can, and you take that O off and add the subjunctive endings. So in this case, it's an ER verb, and therefore the ending is a, en cuanto pueda.
En cuanto pueda.
So this en cuanto means as soon as. So as soon as I can, en cuanto pueda.
En cuanto pueda.
And it's a very common phrase. We could even treat it as a bit of vocabulary. En cuanto pueda, as soon as I can. En cuanto pueda.
En cuanto pueda.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, when Maria José was talking about when she returned from Madrid, and they would go to the restaurant that she was talking about. Indeed, that's the restaurant that they're in this evening. She said, when I return from Madrid, we will go. Cara, can you remember how she said, when I return?
Cuando is the when, and vuelva?
That's it, yeah. Vuelva from the verb
Volver.
volver. So the same thing happens with volver. You go to the I form, which is vuelvo. You take off the O and add the subjunctive ending. So, cuando vuelva. And in this episode, Maria José was talking about when Andrew returns to England, when he goes back to England. Cuando vuelvas a Inglaterra. Cuando vuelvas a Inglaterra. Try saying that?
Cuando vuelvas a Inglaterra.
And she actually said, no quiero que pierdas todo. Cuando vuelvas a Inglaterra. Now, pierdas comes from the verb perder. Can you remember? I think we've covered that once before.
To lose.
To lose, exactly. So, I don't want you to lose everything. Talking about his experience of learning Spanish. No quiero que pierdas todo.
No quiero que pierdas todo.
Exacto. So, pierdas coming from perder, to lose. Again, going to the yo form of perder. Pierdo, taking off the O and adding the subjunctive endings. Pierda, pierdas, pierda. So in this case it becomes no quiero que pierdas todo. I don't want that you lose everything. Remember, in English we say I don't want you to lose everything. But in Spanish we need to say I don't want that you lose everything. And obviously she's talking about him forgetting his Spanish. No quiero que pierdas todo cuando vuelvas a Inglaterra.
No quiero que pierdas todo cuando vuelvas a Inglaterra.
So, in this conversation, we've come across three uses of the subjunctive. Firstly, en cuanto, so as soon as. So, as soon as I return. Cara, how would you say that?
En cuanto vuelva.
Uh-huh. We've also come across the cuando with the future, or cuando describing a future situation at least. When I return to England, for example.
Cuando vuelva a Inglaterra.
Cuando vuelva a Inglaterra. And we also came across the I don't want that you do something. So, no quiero que, in this situation, pierdas. No quiero que pierdas.
No quiero que pierdas.
Cara, how would you say I don't want you to sing?
No quiero que cantes.
Muy bien. No quiero que cantes. Normally cantas would be the to form, but because it's the subjunctive, it's the opposite ending. So cantes. No quiero que cantes.
No quiero que cantes.
Okay, and that could probably be a little refrain for Coffee Break Spanish lessons. No quiero que cantes. We've also had, over the past few weeks, we've had quizás.
Quizás.
And what does quizás mean?
It means maybe.
Maybe or perhaps. So quizás plus the subjunctive. Quizás sea una buena idea.
Quizás sea una buena idea.
Okay. We've had no creo que.
No creo que.
I don't think it's a good idea. No creo que sea una buena idea.
No creo que sea una buena idea.
We've had esperar que, to hope that. So, espero que estas lecciones de Coffee Break Spanish hayan sido interesantes. Okay, Cara, try repeating that.
Espero que estas lecciones de Coffee Break Spanish.
The next part is, it's actually the perfect subjunctive. I threw that in. Hayan sido.
Hayan sido.
Yeah. Hayan, in this situation, is the present subjunctive of haber, the auxiliary verb for the perfect tense. So I hope that they have been interesantes. Interesting. Espero que estas lecciones de Coffee Break Spanish hayan sido interesantes.
Espero que estas lecciones de Coffee Break Spanish hayan sido
Interesantes.
interesantes.
Muy bien. Y one other one that we did was antes de que.
Antes de que.
And that meant
Before.
before doing something, yeah. And in the sense, it's not quite before doing something, I suppose. It's more before I do something, you do this. Okay? Because before doing something is just antes de plus the infinitive. But when you've got two subjects, then it needs to be antes de que plus the subjunctive. So, for example, por ejemplo, antes de que acabemos esta lección, tenéis que escuchar la conversación más rápida. So, before we finish this lesson, what have our listeners got to do, Cara?
They've got to listen to the quicker version of today's conversation.
Absolutely. So, here goes. Have a listen. Tenías razón, estas albóndigas están riquísimas.
Sí, te lo dije. Cuando estaba en Madrid fuimos a un restaurante donde comimos unas tapas muy buenas, pero estas son mejores.
¿Y qué tal la conferencia?
Bien, pero no conocía a mucha gente. Dime, ¿ya has hecho las maletas?
No, todavía no. La verdad es que no quiero volver a Inglaterra. Me he divertido tanto aquí.
Tengo que decir que tu español se ha mejorado un montón.
Por lo menos ahora entiendo lo que me dices, pues la mayoría del tiempo. Quiero darte las gracias por eso. Y por mucho más.
¿A qué hora sale el avión mañana?
A las 11. ¿Me vas a acompañar al aeropuerto?
Claro que sí,
¿Y cuándo vas a venir a verme?
en cuanto pueda, pero tengo que ahorrar un poco de dinero. De todos modos, podemos hablar por Skype y por Messenger.
Me voy a comprar un webcam.
¿Pondrás las fotos de tu estancia aquí en tu Facebook?
Claro.
Y dime, ¿cómo vas a seguir aprendiendo español? No quiero que pierdas todo cuando vuelvas a Inglaterra.
Sí, lo sé, me costará mucho. Por eso tú tienes que venir a verme.
Vendré en cuanto pueda. Mientras tanto, yo te escribo un mail cada día y me tienes que responder en castellano.
Sí, y Michael me ha dicho que su profesor de aquí le ha recomendado un podcast muy bueno para la gente que aprende español.
¡Qué bien! Oye, ¿ya pedimos la cuenta?
Sí.
Coffee Break Español.
So a few more subjunctives in this episode. We did promise that we'd get a few in before the series came to an end.
And as far as I understand from what you've told me, Mark, there will be more subjunctives in Showtime Spanish.
Exactly, Cara. In Showtime Spanish, we'll be continuing on from where we're leaving off with Coffee Break Spanish. Although we've covered a huge amount of language in Coffee Break Spanish, there's still lots more to learn, and Showtime Spanish will give our listeners the opportunity to put everything they've learned up until now into practice.
So, tell us a bit about how Showtime Spanish is going to work.
Well, as you know, with Coffee Break Spanish, you've been rehearsing for months, in some cases years. In Showtime Spanish, it's time to get out there on the stage to stand up and perform.
Does that mean there's going to be more singing?
Quizás. quizás. Well, it won't be the main point of the show, but there may be the odd song or two.
So why is it called Showtime?
Well, Showtime Spanish is going to be broadcast in seasons of 5 lessons. Every 5th lesson will in fact be a show. Imagine a scene from a play or an episode of a soap opera. And the lessons leading up to that episode will present dialogues and conversations which will help our listeners prepare to understand the content of the 5th lesson.
Okay, so is it going to be about the 5th lesson each time?
Not at all. We'll be covering different topics each week and taking the opportunity to tackle a number of grammar points. And hopefully everything will follow on perfectly from Coffee Break Spanish. We have been paying really close attention to what our listeners have been asking for, and we'll be including some cool Spanish phrases and real-life conversations in the show.
And we get to follow the story too?
Exactly. We were kind of preparing you for this a bit with the story of Andrew and Maria Jose. With Showtime Spanish, there will be more characters and indeed more Spanish speakers involved.
Now, I'm not going to be around for Showtime Spanish. I've got to concentrate on my studies now. So, who's going to be helping out with Showtime?
Well, we've been putting together a team of teachers and native speakers who will be working together on the show. I'll still be presenting the show each week, but I'll be joined by a number of people from around the Spanish-speaking world, and listeners will get to know the whole team very quickly. But there's another group of people who are very important for Showtime Spanish.
Who would that be?
The listeners, los oyentes. Each week we'll be featuring a learner's question, based on what our learners are finding difficult in their Spanish studies. We'll be providing a phone number for our learners to phone in their questions by voicemail, and we'll answer them on the show.
Cool. Maybe I'll call in too.
Well, I'm actually hoping you'll do just that, at least to start us off. You can find out exactly how to do all of this at www.showtimespanish.com.
Of course, I'll be happy to. One question though, what about Coffee Break Spanish listeners who aren't quite ready for Showtime?
Well, it will be very easy to keep rehearsing. As of the 18th of October, we're going right back to the beginning with Coffee Break Spanish and starting to broadcast our newly remastered versions of the shows on a weekly basis, all ready for a new audience. Now, this does mean that if you're currently listening to Coffee Break Spanish and you're halfway through the course, then you might want to make sure you've downloaded all the remaining materials before we remove them from the feed. We're also introducing a new type of membership where existing listeners can access the premium content in bronze, silver, gold and platinum versions so that they don't need to wait for particular lessons to be broadcast.
So, Coffee Break Spanish will live on.
Absolutely, and indeed we hope it will continue to grow. For our current subscribers, we'd like to remind you all that there will in fact be the free refill published every couple of weeks.
And the free refill will help listeners who have been learning with us from the beginning look at the language we learned back then in a different way.
That's exactly right. For example, when we learned buenos dias, we didn't really think about the gender of the word dia or why it's buenos and not buenas and so on. The free refill will pick up on things like that based on how much listeners know if they've been following the whole course.
So, the bottom line is don't unsubscribe from the main Coffee Break Spanish feed.
Exactly, ya ves.
Okay, is there anything else we need to tell the listeners in this episode?
I don't think so, not in terms of information about Coffee Break Spanish or Showtime Spanish, but there is one thing that we need to do.
And I guess that's say adios.
Yes, we'll be continuing to provide new content through the feed, but this is nonetheless the end of an era.
I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone for supporting Coffee Break Spanish throughout the past 24 months.
Muchísimas gracias por todo. Thanks for the iTunes reviews, for being part of the discussion board, for the Podcast Alley reviews, for posting on the blog, for voting for Coffee Break Spanish in awards and so on. And of course, you can continue to leave reviews and comments and contribute to the forum and all that.
Thank you for downloading the weekly shows, for visiting the website, and for subscribing as premium members.
Esto no es el fin. This is not the end. We'll be back with a rerun of Coffee Break Spanish shows, and we very much hope that Showtime Spanish will help you make even more progress with your Spanish.
But for now, muchas gracias a todos y adiós.
Gracias y hasta muy pronto en el primer episodio de Showtime Spanish.
Coffee Break Español. Places, everyone. It's showtime.
Sí, ya no falta mucho. Not long now. Showtime Spanish is the new podcast from the award-winning Radiolingua Network, which will take your Spanish to the next stage. You've done the rehearsing with Coffee Break Spanish, and it's now time to put your Spanish to work. Our weekly episodes will help you develop your confidence and build your range of expression. Showtime Spanish launches on the 18th of October. In the meantime, find out more at showtimespanish.com.
Break a leg, take a bow. It's showtime.
This podcast was brought to you by the Radiolingua Network. Find out more at www.radiolingua.com.